The following podcast is part of the Joy Road Media family. Enjoy.
You can't handle the truth.
Truth is an acronym for
True revelations uncovered through heroism.
heroism.
Quiet.
What's not the truth has been unearthed.
He's going to ask a very simple, easy question.
Is the truth really out there?
Now please enjoy the Truthcast with your host Thomas Luge and Little Dicky Ricketts.
This is Thomas Luge of the True Revelations Uncovered Through Heroism series of meetings that we hold at the Cellarman's Brewery in Hazel Park, Michigan. We are now embarking into a new endeavor, me and my co-host, Dicky Ricketts.
Pleased to be here.
Into the podcast realm, because we are told this is where we can achieve maximum impact.
Well, we're hanging out in the meeting room of the Hazel Park Library down the street from where we hold our monthly meetings, begrudgingly with our first guest for our show. He's a fella who I think of as a peer, but recently he's moved into the Ricketts estate because he's established a relationship with Mama Ricketts. I'm still not going to call you Daddy. How's it going, Professor Terri O'Reilli?
Dickie, I didn't know we were going to delve into personal relationships to begin with. I thought this would be much more of a professional endeavor.
I would prefer to keep it that way. You do not need, on the way over here, of course, my credit card is maxed out, so I was not able to get a lift on my own. So you gave me a ride, and you spoke very graphically about the sounds my mother makes, and inappropriate, and definitely not a man of esteem like my yogi, my sensei. Dickie, sorry for interrupting. You interrupted me.
I was trying to establish that I was bringing your mother pleasure. If I did it in a manner that was not pleasing to you, I apologize, but I'm a man of science, and describing things of a prurient nature may not be my forte.
Yes,
Human
Dickie.
Sexuality is a relatively new concept to me.
Professor O'Reilly is a man of logic, Dickie. He means nothing personal by his descriptions.
I understand, but sometimes you let me stay at your estate. I don't know exactly where it is because you make me wear a satchel over my head when you take me there. You know, I've tried to tell you about my lovemaking with my girlfriend in Canada who totally exists, Atlantis Morissette. You tell me you don't want to hear about it.
I am not a man of logic, Dickie. I am a truth seeker and critical thinker. And I would like to think of you as a peer, and if we start delving too deeply into each other's love lives, they might mesh and join together as one.
Right, plus you do believe in abstinence, as you've told me.
I do.
So why is that again?
Because I had a lot of sex in my early days, and I realized the cloud that it put in front of me, and it just did nothing but hold me back from achieving my goals of uncovering the truth around the world.
That reminds me, Terry told me that he did a thing called the sex cloud with my mom. Anyway, we're here to talk about chemtrails.
What?
Another type of cloud.
As I've mentioned on numerous occasions, they aren't chemtrails. They are steam occlusions that the aeronautics industry are using to keep the populace from seeing the alien craft that is hovering above our atmosphere. Chemtrails is a myth. Chemtrails make no sense. If human beings were putting chemicals in those occlusions, they themselves would be susceptible to the diseases that were released in those emissions.
Well, this makes sense. Chemicals, they are liquid, correct?
They are a benign liquid, but visually they occlude us from seeing a large alien craft that hovers above the atmosphere. This was delineated in a completely underappreciated film called District 9.
Interesting.
Isn't District 9 a sequel to District 8?
I'm not aware of that documentary.
I was trying to make a joke because I heard comedy podcasts were pretty good. I guess that one just did not fly.
I'm just trying to help.
I'm going to try again with your permission, Thomas. District 9, is that a prequel to District 10?
I suppose that a District 10 would be appreciated because people still aren't aware that chemtrails is a myth and that aeronautic occlusions is what the reality of the situation is.
Dickie, this is very serious here. District 9 tackles very, very difficult topics to talk about, such as the topics that Mr. O'Reilly here is covering, as well as its spin-off Chappie, where they talk about artificial intelligence and robots taking over the world.
And what about the other one, Elysium, that starred Mr. Matt Damon?
That one it is also in that world, but it talks about the elites and how they would like to separate themselves from the rest of us on a rotating disc floating above the earth.
I will say that architecturally, the craft in Elysium was very accurate, although I'm not sure that the storyline was 100% in line with what is happening today.
I have a quick follow-up question for you. The actor Charlton Copley, who plays the protagonist in District 9, is he playing the same character as Howlin' Mad Murdoch in the A-Team film? Is that what happened? He went mad because of being exposed to the aliens in South Africa.
He's not betraying a character. That's a real human being.
Howlin' Mad Murdoch?
I don't know that reference. I am talking about District 9.
The docudrama.
It is, in fact, a docudrama and one of the greatest works of our time. It's completely overlooked. People have not given it its due.
It's no Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, but it's all right.
Well, that is a work of entertainment. That is not a work of documentation.
I would like to disagree with that. I believe that the CIA has been working pretty big operations to learn how to shrink people down.
Oh, the technology itself exists, but the way it was presented was fictional.
Speaking of Matt Damon, that movie Downsizing.
Downsizing is another example of using existing technology but telling a fictional story. Matt Damon, to my knowledge, makes fictional stories other than the wonderful documentary of human interactions with immigrant young ladies. Why are you looking at me that way, Dickie?
Oh, you've lost me, Dr. Professor.
Obviously, I'm talking about Good Will Hunting.
Oh, yeah.
Where Matt Damon shows us his mathematical skills.
Oh, I remember that.
It's one of the greatest scientific films of our time, not to mention a great exploration of the fact that American humans can interact with the females of other races.
Speaking of Matt Damon, you know what I really like is that movie Dogma. You know who else is in that? Atlantis Morissette.
Your girlfriend.
Well, I don't like to kiss and tell because my name isn't Dr. Terri O'Reilly. Oh, we should probably mention all your accommodations and your background so people listening to the podcast know that you are a man of science. Reluctantly, I admit you are a learned fella, but would you like to please tell the listeners your resume?
Thank you, Dickie. I'm glad that we are coming to more of a common ground.
Anything to get you to not talk about my mama.
My name is Mr. Dr. Terri O'Reilly, and I am the Senior Research Fellow at the O'Reilly Institute for Pragmatic Divulsion. The Institute's prime function is to educate and lobby the public and the aeronautics industry to discontinue their use of visual occlusions that are keeping the world's people from knowing about a large alien spacecraft that hovers above our atmosphere. Obviously, the aerospace industry has no need to discharge the emissions that they do. What this has led to is a popular thought that chemtrails are being released to harm humans. This is incorrect. Those trails that you see in the sky, those white streaks, are simply enhanced steam that is used so that the skies are continually occluded and human beings will not try to make contact with our alien neighbors. I am also an adjunct professor in pocket billiards at Washtenaw Community College.
And if you're new to the podcast because you're a fan of Dr. Terri O'Reilli, which I don't see how that's possible, the reason for us being here is Mr. Thomas Luge. Thomas, would you like to tell the listener about your background in education?
Yes, of course. My background, I came within 8 credits of graduating from Yale University with a MBA in economics.
That's almost the full way.
That's almost the full way. I quickly realized that economics is just a tool used by the elites to control the rest of the planet. So I left Yale University and I took a fellowship in India with a monastery of monks where I learned spirituality. And then immediately after that, I moved to Los Angeles, just seeking more truth within the confines of America, where I met one very special person, Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan.
I thought Anthony Kiedis.
No, not Anthony Kiedis. It was Joe Rogan who introduced me to DMT, and the two of us went on many different journeys and spoke to different interdimensional beings. And that brings me here today, where I try to speak the truth with fellow critical thinkers and truth seekers.
We appreciate your dedication in the academic world, Mr. Luge, regardless of whether or not you finish those 8 credits.
Now, DMT is that rapper who barks a lot.
No, that would be the rapper DMX.
Right, different fella. I, of course, am self-taught. I went to the Scientific Enlightenment Life Foundation. It's sort of like a sub-community college, homeschool type program, but we don't like to speak about that. The number of plaques and awards on a fella's wall is not how you judge the character of a man.
Well, you're an accomplished man, Dickie. I once saw your plaque for 5th grade spelling bee champion.
I spell the hell out of a word.
Your mother is very proud of you, Dickie, and she speaks very highly of you, even sometimes during our lovemaking.
I don't like the way you smile when you say your mother to me.
Being with your mother has caused me a great deal of smiles.
Thomas, he's pushing me on purpose.
Dickie, use your tools that you learned in your anger management.
Oh,
seminars.
There's no place like home. 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 I feel better now.
Okay.
I would certainly hope so, though I would like to point out that it has never been known for a cyclone to teleport human beings to another world.
I didn't catch that reference.
It's an entertainment film starring the delightful Judy Garland called The Wizard of Oz. Although wizards are not real, they are fictional characters.
Oh, that's a prequel to the Sean Connery joint Zardoz. I've heard of that. Anyway, the way Thomas and I met is I was being kicked out of a Starbucks, and Thomas, you took me under your wings.
I did. I recognized the potential that I saw in you that day, Dickie. I saw a building of people who wanted and needed someone to show them the truth, but weren't ready for it. And that's when I noticed that you had a special talent of reaching through to people.
Well, it's because, as you pointed out, I don't drink tap water.
Exactly.
I drink out of garden hoses.
Exactly.
And
fluoride free.
Exactly. And I'm glad it's warming up, because it's a lot easier to find houses with the outside water turned on. All winter long, I was getting hella thirsty. So here's a question for you, Doctor, and I say that in quotes, Terri. the so-called chemtrails, I can see like on either side of them, and I see that there's no spaceship up there. How do you explain that? Is this like some sort of magic eye thing where you have to relax your eyes and you can see them?
Dickie, magic doesn't exist unless I'm counting the times I spend intimately with your mother. But if you look
Thomas, you know that was a cheap shot.
If you look into our work at the Institute in the color spectrum illusion patterns, you'll see that even the blue sky is an illusion to the human eye. It is not in fact blue.
So are we to believe that the common knowledge of science of the blue sky existing because of the reflection of the sun off of the particles floating through the air is incorrect?
The sun's reflection does have an impact on what it is that we view when we look into the sky. That is correct. But Dickie's assertion that there's nothing up there because he doesn't see it is false, because the aeronautics industry has been distributing these steam occlusions since the 1950s. Dickie, you were born in, I believe, the 70s, and so you have never lived in a world without the steam occlusion blocking your sight from what's above our atmosphere.
Well, what about how
these occlusions were in response to the aliens' presence? They haven't always been up. During World War II, when we had many aircraft in the air, our military aircraft discovered the presence of the alien craft, reported it to their superiors, and their superiors immediately began a program in which private aircraft would distribute these occlusions so that there wouldn't be mass panic in the streets of America.
Now, which program exactly was that?
There are a number of programs, almost all of them covert. We know about Project Blue Book, but that is a front operation so that it seems that the military is cooperating with what the public wishes to know, when in point of fact, it's just a deflection of the things that are actually going on to block our knowledge of said craft.
Sidebar, Thomas, I don't know what Project Blue Book is.
I believe that was the project in which the military was...
In particular, the Navy, like the wonderful song In the Navy from one of the greatest rock and roll bands of all time, the Village People. The Navy took it upon themselves to document sightings of alien craft. The fact that they acknowledge the sightings of these alien crafts in no way infers that they are telling us the truth about every encounter. They're more of a clearinghouse.
Speaking of the Village People, did y'all hear on the news about the fatalities at Universal Studios in Los Angeles, California over the weekend?
I had no idea that they had a Village People ride at Universal Studios.
No. People were trying to dance to YMCA sung in Mandarin because those letters are complicated. They make us do our show at Sellerman's at a comedy venue, and I'm picking up by osmosis a little bit of the buffoonery. That is not a real story. Sorry, gentlemen.
Please, Dickie, we have a very esteemed guest here today. We would like to just stay on topic without the mockery.
My apologies. Doctor, again in quotes, Terry, can you please explain to me the Steven Spielberg trilogy theory that you had at your first time speaking with me and Thomas about his trilogy of alien movies, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, starring Mr. Richard Dreyfuss, E.T. the Extraterrestrial, starring D. Wallace Stone, and War of the Worlds, starring Mr. Thomas Cruise.
It's quite simple, Dickie. Close Encounters would be the first contact, and Mr. Spielberg was telling us that it's highly likely, as you saw in the movie, that we are going to have pleasant and peaceful contact with our celestial neighbor.
As long as we have mashed potatoes.
As long as we have mashed potatoes. Yes, that is true. Mashed potatoes can be an instrument of peace and not a simple carbohydrate.
I thought potatoes were a starch.
I'm not a nutritionist.
I bet Thomas minored in nutrition at Yale. That sounds like a better school than where you went to. I'm not saying it's a contest because Thomas won. But anyway, continue.
My family's economic status did not afford me Yale University, though I believe I was well within my academic standing to go there with a fine 2.98 grade point average in high school. At any rate, then Mr. Spielberg, who is an absolute genius, tried to show that the younger generation could also live in peace with the aliens through his documentary E.T. But as you see, and as the Institute continues to point out, our government chased that poor creature away. Did they not?
Yes, sir.
And what was the end result? War of the Worlds. It's very simple. It couldn't be a more simple and more chronologically relevant trilogy.
Because the ETs came back.
Exactly. They were upset that their people were treated unkindly.
That they were put in closets.
Yes, they were closeted. They were fed horrible junk food with no nutritional value. And again, I'm not a nutritionist. And then sent away. It was a very sad tale, and the end result was War of the Worlds. There was quite a bit of destruction.
Thomas, you know a lot about nutrition. Is there nutritional value to Reese's Pieces? I mean, they have peanut butter in them.
I believe so. The peanuts inside of the Reese's Pieces have plenty of protein, and when eaten enough of Reese's Pieces can make you feel full for hours.
Sometimes they show up in my stools.
You have to chew better, Dickie, that's why.
Oh.
The high sugar content then leads to the necessity of teeth brushing, which leads to the necessity of fluoride, and then you're in a cruel circle where the fluoride is controlling your brain. Both of you know that full well.
Yes, but that is why I'm a vegan.
Absolutely.
I didn't know they made beef Reese's Pieces.
Yes, Jack Slinks has created a new version of the jerky that is covered in pure organic chocolate.
That sounds delightful. Almost as delightful as seeing Dickie's mother in the nude.
You know, for a second there, I was going to say that sounded like a mouth orgasm, and then you had to go and tag it with that. Thanks a lot, Terry. I thought we were reaching hands reaching hands.
Well, Dickie, that sounded like a compliment to me. He's saying your mother is beautiful.
Yeah.
Even in her advanced ages.
You know who I think was beautiful? Melinda Dillon in Close Encounters of the Third Kind. She was also in A Christmas Story. She had kind of a MILF thing going on.
I'm not certain what MILF is, but I did find her to be quite physically attractive in Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Maven, I'd like to friend.
I have taught myself to not look at anyone sexually, so I cannot comment on that.
You're completely asexual.
I am.
And that's why he does great works, because his mind is concentrated on the things that the people need to know and not his own physical desires.
Well, yep, that's true.
My physical desires manifest themselves into marathon, week-long reading sessions of the likes of Aleister Crowley or people along those lines.
Now, I haven't read any Aleister Crowley yet, but I have listened to some of the solo Ozzy Osbourne albums.
It's the same thing, virtually.
Except for set to music.
Yes, of course.
You know, Peter Coyote in that movie E.T. is not a coyote. He's a human being.
Is he related to Wiley in any way?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, he was giving them chase, and Wiley was giving the Roadrunner chase.
I believe you gentlemen are confluencing entertainment programming with documentary programming.
Well, my argument is sometimes Hollywood tries to obscure the two, so that way you don't know when filmmakers such as George Lucas, we'll talk about this on a different episode, or maybe I'll make a video about this on our YouTube channel. You know, people try to fictionalize the work of George Lucas, but I think he's a brilliant documentarian. You just need to look where the truth is.
This is very indicative of the Project Mockingbird of the CIA, where they implant factual news into the media to build credibility, but then as soon as they have your trust, they begin to pump you full of propaganda.
I believe that to be correct, and certainly we know that we've been trying to tell the populace that BuzzFeed is a CIA front and has been from its inception.
You know what I don't like is HuffPost.
Very liberal.
Yeah.
We do not subscribe to that media outlet at the Institute. We are strictly CNBC, BuzzFeed, and the YouTube works of various miners who seem to have great taste and great knowledge of the things that work this world.
Now, when you say
like
miners,
ASMR.
are you talking about like Kesha, or are you talking about Chileans?
I believe I was talking about Kesha.
That checks out. They try to silence her, too. I get all my news from the dark web because Thomas told me that's where the real truth lies. So I go to the library out there to their computer lab. It's just through the doors. And I go to www.geocities.darkweb.onion.org. And I find a lot of information there.
My nephews, some of whom are now interns at the O'Reilly Institute, were very large fans of Dark Web Duck.
Now, when you say nephews, are you meaning nephews or are you meaning quote-unquote nephews?
I'm meaning my biological nephews, the sons of my late brother, Mr. Harry Chapin.
Like the Harry Chapin?
The Harry Chapin. My parents had children a very long time apart. They were not nearly as, I don't want to upset you, Dickie, and refer to my relationship with your mother again. But suffice it to say that our parents had two children a great number of years apart.
Fair enough.
Mr. Chapin is in fact my brother, and it is his estate which provides the funding for the O'Reilly Institute for Pragmatic Divulsion.
Well, I don't know about Chapin, but I do know you're chafing my grit. Excuse me, like, hello? Okay.
Yeah, we still have 3 minutes, please. Okay, well, we'll be out.
I booked my time.
We understand that we are getting close to our time, but we are not at our time yet.
I am here every Tuesday through Saturday, and this library would not exist if it weren't for me. So we will wrap things up in less than 3 minutes.
Miss, would it be possible for me to negotiate some more time for our broadcast if I promise to return Dickie's late Judy Blume books?
I do not have any late Judy Blume books. So this has been the Truthcast. I'm Little Dickie Ricketts, as always, with my reason for waking up in the morning.
Thomas Luge.
Thomas, thank you for taking time to come here for this today.
Of course, Dickie. Any time there's an opportunity to speak the truth to the world, I will take that opportunity.
Dr. Terri, I believe you have a book coming out that you would probably like to promote.
I am in discussions with the publishers right now about releasing my new tome on aeronautical visual occlusions. And if anyone is interested, they can join my mailing list by going to my Facebook page, Mr. Dr. Terri O'Reilly. That's T as in Thomas Luge, E as in ecstasy, R as in Ricketts, R as in Reese's Pieces, I as in I am completely in love with your mother.
Oh, hey, that's kind of funny that you spell your name like a girl. Anyway, I wish we had time to get to the title of your book, but it seems like we have to get out of here. Thank you for listening to the Truthcast. Don't buy Terry's book. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Truthcast. You can send questions, topic suggestions or comments to Thomas at trueheroes053@gmail.com or to Dickie at littledicr@gmail.com. Please rate, review and subscribe.
En cellervinget die misliabel pseubilia royrector the silver assisted elabium email substacker wicked if one is up sky, I'll be up so, she'll